So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take a medium-sized brush. It could be a round, filbert, or a square. It really doesn't matter for this one. You can take any of these kinds of brushes, just like a medium-sized brush. I'm just going to use this filbert brush because I like using it for these little canvases like what we're working with today. So the first thing we're going to do is just space out our ghosts, and we're going to paint them with white. So I'm going to take my white and I'm going to go right towards the center. And all I'm doing is making a, like an N, and then curve it out just a little bit at the bottoms. And then you're going to go ahead and wiggle at the bottom to make a little ghost shape. And you can really adjust the shape however you like. I'm going to color the whole first layer in with the white, just little cat scratches, filling it in. And notice how I let the first layer be a little bit streaky. When I'm painting on a black canvas, I don't try to make it look finished right away. I let it look kind of bad partway through because it's going to help with the process. And then we'll do some little friends, little baby ones. These can be a little smaller, maybe positioned a little bit higher up. So cute. I'll do another one right here. And just adjust the shape. Remember, you can always paint over things with black when you're doing a black canvas. So, don't stress too much about that. Now we want those to dry, but I want to add some white flowers. So I want to have a white flower up here, and the flower is just going to be a little wobbly circle. Not too crazy. I'm going to put another one down here. Little wobbly circle. So I have two flowers. They're going to be predominantly white. And then I want to create some new like pumpkins. So we're going to go ahead and, you can leave a little bit of white on your brush, but I'm going to mix my yellow and my red to make orange. But I want a little bit of white in there for the first layer. I always do that when I'm painting on a black canvas. I always have a little bit of white mixed in because your acrylics are kind of transparent typically. And it's helpful to have that barrier for your first layer. And when we go to do the second layer, you can change the shade, so don't worry about it. Now I'm going to put a pumpkin like right under the ghost, and the pumpkin is just a little oval that's like smushed. So don't get too technical with this. It's going to be good. And then I'm going to put one maybe above and just a little to the right. It's like a little oval. The pumpkins are shaped so differently that you really can just go crazy with that. I'll do another little one right here. I'll put one over here. Just put as many pumpkins as you want. This one's fun. It's kind of more decorative. That got really weird shaped. That doesn't look like a circle at all. So I'm smoothing it out. And then let's see, put one more right here. And then I want this first coat of orange to dry. So notice how I just leave it really streaky and not that exciting. I'm just going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to go in, add some different colored flowers. So I'm going to add some purple flowers. The purple flowers are going to be, purple, but still mixing the white in because we want that white. So I'm going to mix my red and blue to create purple. And then add white. Now it's good to start heavy on the red because the blue can really overpower really fast. So I'm going to add a little extra red, and then make sure you have enough white in there. And then I'm going to add some purple flowers. So these are still just wiggly circles. however many you want. You can be big or small. I'm gonna make some small, some big. And then I'm gonna leave it at that. Now, this looks not very fun right now, but it's gonna get there. Now we have the last thing we want to add are our leaves, which I definitely recommend a small round brush for that. So you want to be going into your round size brushes, something that's pointy at the tip, and we're gonna make our green. So green is gonna be using yellow and blue. And a little bit of white because we're painting a black canvas. If you want more of a blue-green, just use less yellow. I'm just going for like maybe a little bit of a blue-green, more like a turquoise, not too green, like not too much yellow. So you can adjust it. And then I'm just doing a little leaf coming out around the flowers. So I usually just point the tip and then push a little harder and then release. And it gives me a good leaf shape. So point the tip where you want the tip of the leaf, barely touch, don't touch hard, and then pull and then push. So watch your pressure. Don't push too hard. The pumpkin can have little leaves coming off the top. Just like, dude. So find the top of the pumpkin and then do that. And then the flowers can have the leaves coming wherever you want. You just gotta zone out and paint them. And then fill in the space. You know, you want to make sure there's not too much like empty black space to making it look kind of sad. So just add leaves and all that stuff until you feel like the space has a decent amount of foliage going on. You don't want it to look all naked. Don't forget to add flowers coming out of the, or leaves coming out of the white ones. I almost did that. Forget this one up here. Thought it was a ghost. Ghosts don't need leaves coming out of them. I mean, you can, but it doesn't have to. All right, now we have all the base layer covered. So all the colors have a voice, and we're gonna clean the brush. I'm gonna start layering, and I'm gonna layer on my ghost first because that was the first thing I put down. I'm still gonna use that round brush, and I'm gonna mix some white and blue. Just white and blue. And at the bottom of the ghost, I'm gonna add a little bit of that, just at the bottom. White and blue. Just wiggle it at the bottom of the shape of each ghost. That looks fun. Now you can even pull some up like into the shape. So once I have a little bit in the shape, I'm going to clean it, put that little brush away, and let's go ahead and just clean it and bring it back to life. So we're still going to use the round one, and I'm going to start layering on the white flowers. So we're going to take, this time, we're going to add some color to it. We're going to take a little bit of white and red and just add it into our purple for a very, very, very pinkish purple. Notice how I just went to my purple and added pink to it. So it's going to get a little bit of that purple vibe, but it has way more red. It's like a really light violet. So it's a little bit purple, but it's more pink-ish, pinkish purple. And then I'm going to go into the shape here and just spiral. And notice how I didn't cover all the way. I just want to get a little layer on the white flowers of that really light purple. And then I can take that on top of my purple, the actual purple ones, the ones that we painted purple, but notice how it should look lighter than the first layer. And I'm just spiraling. So you should see a little bit of the first layer still. Don't cover it all the way. So now you should see a couple shades on the more white colored one and a couple shades on the little bit darker purple ones. Okay. That's good. And then what you can do is create a darker shade. So you don't need to clean the brush. I would just use the red and blue with less white. You can have a little bit of white, but less white. And then that can become like a darker purple shadow color, and you can spiral that in a little bit. And you can even switch to a smaller paintbrush if you have one. I usually work with the bigger brush just because it keeps me loose. It keeps me from trying too hard to make things look perfect. And some of you might need that. You might need a little anti-perfect measures. Not that there's anything wrong with wanting to make things look perfect, or I'm not saying that. But I'm going to clean it. But yeah, you could switch to something that's a little smaller if you wanted to for doing those, you know, whatever brushes you have. You can even go really tiny. But I want to go back to my Filbert. Actually, I have a couple layers on the flowers, which is good. And a couple of layers on the ghosts. The ghosts look kind of awkward at the moment, so I'm going to clean the Filbert and use just the white to paint a second coat on there. And I can also tone down that blue that I added. So I can paint over that a little bit. I still make sure it's still showing, but you know, you can tone it down. I usually do this. Like I'll add a color and then I'll go in and maybe paint over it a little bit. So we're just adding a second layer to the little ghosts. It's really fun to paint little decorative things like this because it's kind of low maintenance. You can take it as far as you want, but it can be real simple. Now let's do a second coat on our pumpkins. This time I'm going to use less white in my orange. You can still have some white in there, and I might make it a little darker with more red. So it's like a darker shade of orange. You always want to try to shoot for 3 shades. So now I'm going to add another layer over that. Look how much more fun that one looks than the other ones already. And we're going to even do more layers, so it's going to get even better. It just takes patience with the black canvas. You have to layer one color at a time and let each layer dry before you add more. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But I like it because I get to kind of go back and forth between my colors, add layer, come back, add more. It's just fun for me. But now look how much better it looks just with having a few layers added. So you can switch over to one of those smaller round brushes. I might do that just for this next part because I want to get some more details on the flowers. And I want to use, I'm going to go to the flowers. I want to use some maybe more white, like so I could start with that, a little more white, and go into your little, the ones that are supposed to be a little more white, and just make sure that it looks light. Sometimes when we add our other layers, we lose the color that we want it to be predominantly. So this is going to help make that stand back out. And remember, feel free to pause anytime, and you can always come back and, add more. But I want to use pink too, just red and white only. And I'm going to add that to my purple. The darker purple ones. So see, I can go in and add it to those. I love doing that. Just red and white to get that pink vibe in there. You can even, I might even add a little bit of pink on the lighter purple ones, the whitish ones, because I like the pink color with this Halloween theme. You can even add a little bit of that pink to the pumpkins. So I want you to start pulling little brush strokes in a vertical fashion. So notice how I can kind of round the brush stroke out as I go to the edge to match the circle shape. And then as I come through the middle, it can be a little straighter. But we're just doing a little touch of pink on top of that orange, which looks so cute. And starting to get the texture of the shape. So bent, and then through the middle straight, and then bent again. Bend, bend, straight, bend the other way. It just comes more and more to life here as we do this. So awesome. I'm just cleaning my brush because I got some orange on it because my orange was still a little wet. But for the next step, I want to add little cheeks to my ghosts still with pink. So if you didn't get too crazy like I did, you might not need to clean your brush. I just want the red and white. I'm going to go towards the top of the shape and make 2 little circles on either side. So go to the left, go to the right. Don't go too close to the top of the head. It's kind of towards the middle top part of the ghost shape. Don't go too high up. You can always add a little more red into your pink for a more hot pink kind of vibe. And I just layer it where I want to see that color pop a little more. It's just a constant dancing around of these colors. Just so much fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and do some layers on the leaves too, because you don't want those to be totally flat. So what I would do is just take the blue by itself, maybe just a tiny bit of green, if any. So it's like really, it should look darker than what you have on here. And then I'm going to pull a little line through the middle of the shape of the leaf. And then you can pull little lines coming out of that. So it's like a line and then little lines coming out. Or it could just be a dab. If your leaf is really small, just make sure you can see 2 shades. If you have a bigger leaf, you can get more intricate with your layering. But it might just be giving it a little tap of color. The smaller the canvas you're working on, the more typically you're not going to do as many details because it's so small already. But if you're on a bigger canvas, you can get really detailed with that idea. It's just customize it. And then you can add some white to your blue. Maybe a little bit of yellow, but you want to create a lighter shade. And then you can layer a little bit of that in. By the end, you should see 3 shades in each leaf. You should see the first color, you should see the darker color and the lighter color, all dancing together. It doesn't really matter where it is. I know some people want it to be very specific, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you can see the 3 shades, don't cover the first layer all the way because then you won't see 3 shades. It's going to achieve the kind of the result of creating depth or dimension, I should say. So you want to have 3 shades, which creates it just makes it look less flat. I'm just using this little brush. Your brush may not need to be as little if your canvas is a little bit bigger. But I can take that blue, maybe just a little bit of red in it to create a dark purple. And I want to add a center to my flowers, like the darker purple ones. You don't have to do the white ones. You can do this to the white ones, but I'm just going to do it on the purple ones. Creating like a dark center. And I can also, I'm going to just maybe come back to my pink a little bit. I didn't get as much pink on this little guy as I wanted. Sometimes I forget some of these little flowers that they're there. And then we're going to start to add more details with our black. So once you've got these colors and you're like, I'm pretty good with it, we're going to add some details with black. So use a small brush for this part for sure. We're going to get our black paint. And let's start on the ghosts. So in the middle of the ghost face here, I'm going to come right to the middle and just make a U. And then make another U on top of that. And then you can color it in. And you can go up a little higher if you want, like make it bigger. So see, I can easily change the shape. No big deal. And then above the eyes, I'm going to make 2 little rainbow shapes. And then you can pull little tiny flicks off the top of that to make eyelashes. So small. And then I'm going to outline the cheek, the little rosy cheeks. Really light. And then at the bottom, you can go down and just make some little swirls. So see how I'm just swirling the brush? And then some of those can go up like this. So it's really just, and then you can do some like squiggles. You know, it's kind of illustration like, so it's very rough. But I can do that at the bottom of these too. So you just kind of wiggling. And then pulling some vertical lines up. Same thing over here. I'm just doing this part now because it's so fun. I know it's for some people, they're going to be like, this isn't stressing me out. Don't stress. It's up to you to choose. You're choosing that. You don't have to choose to be stressed about it. And then their faces can be a little different. Like this one can have just like a little, like a little scream mouth. We'll do these ones like that. But you can give them different shapes. And then just get those eyes in there above the cheeks. check your brush. And I want to add an outline around those little cheekies too. And this is great if you need to clean up the edges a little bit. You just have that black and just paint over part of the ghost. So don't even, just remember you can do that. I'm just doing it to show you. I could be fine with it the way it is, but I like to, I know my perfectionist out there might want to do that. You can just paint over the edges and reshape things, and it's no big deal. Now for the little jack-o'-lanterns, notice I can kind of wipe the excess paint off my brush. Make sure it's just on the tip. You can make little faces, so you can give little eyes like that, little smiley face. They don't have to be scary. This is more of a cute Halloween painting, not like scary. Little eyes. They're all gonna look different. These ones you can give the bigger ones like triangle eyes. Smiles. This one can be like, you know, paint any kind of little lantern, jack-o'-lantern face you want. That one even gets a nose because it's so big. Some of them are too small for noses. And then you can enhance the little creases around too. So I can make pull little lines around the face for the pumpkin creases. You don't have to. We did it with the pink a little bit. This similar idea, but this can make it a little bit more noticeable. Love it. It's so much fun. And then you want to finish off by adding more white. So I'm just cleaning the brush. And I'm going to go ahead and add a bunch of white. So I'm going to take my little brush with the white, go in, and I can add little dots to the center of my purple flowers. Like little dots. I'll go back and forth between some highlights and shadows for, you know, just for finishing touches. So don't feel like just because you switch and follow along with me, even if you feel like you're not done with something else, doesn't mean you can't go back and do it. So don't stress about it. You can add some more like highlights to your purple flowers. So maybe some parts that are like more whitish, going around in that circular motion. Same thing with the white flower. And then we can add little glimmer to the eyes of the pumpkins. Like they can have like a little glimmer in their eye. Makes them look a little cuter. And then I can add like lots of little dots just around in the empty space. So this looks cool. You can always go in and just be like little dots floating around in the sky. Or the background, I should say, not really a sky. I'm spreading them all around. so that it feels a little more finished, like little dots all around. You can even do pink dots, you know, like it doesn't have to be just the white dots. I might do those in a second. But I do want to add a little more black. So if I take the black, I can swirl that into my flowers too, just a little bit. This little same kind of motion. I'm just spiraling very lightly. I usually don't hold pressure the whole way around. So like I'll let it drop and touch the canvas and then I'll lift up so that it's not touching the whole time. This allows for kind of more of a spontaneous, and I can do that with the white one too, just to give it some more shadow. It allows it to look a little more natural by not making the lines so rough and solid. I'm just cleaning the brush so it doesn't get too crazy. And then make sure your little eyes on these ones have little eyelashes. I kind of forgot to put eyelashes on them. Those look cute. And then maybe you want to add some like pink dots in the background or something. You can just use your red and white. And add some dots. Just add some little dots around. So see, I can make them a little bigger. I don't know. You can get creative here. You can add more pink to anything. I'm just making little marks, little dots. And then at a certain point, you want to call it done, and you're going to be like, look how cute. I made my very own little Halloween decoration. Super cute little ghost trio of ghosts having fun. Not scary at all, just super cute.